Hello, it's Hugh from QLC. So, what's been going on lately? So, the police officer that killed Jacob Blake is not going to face any punishment. We've had Capitol Hill being under siege by protesters, so called MAGA supporters, so called Trump supporters. There have been a few counter arguments, a few reports saying that Antifa were involved as well, but it's all hearsay for now, so I'm not going to definitively say that it was them that were involved. But supposedly, these Trump supporters were upset that Trump was unable to secure the extra votes that he needed to overturn the election result, with everything that was happening with Georgia and the entire country as a whole. Trump has finally accepted that, he's got to let it go and move on. But unfortunately for him, Mark Zuckerberg has decided to ban Trump from Facebook and Instagram indefinitely because of what's been going on at Capitol Hill. 4 people have died. One was killed by a police officer and 3 had died from medical emergencies. Many more people could have died. Who knows how many people could have been injured if things weren't taken care of. I don't even know. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know how they managed to enter Capitol Hill and almost take over it. There should have been more security in my opinion, but I'm sure other reports would suggest reasons as to why this happened. But what I'm interested in is just all this tension, all this political tension that's going on in America, because last year there were all these protests, not just in America, but in other parts of the world, in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and all these other groups that were, fighting against police brutality and racism and all that stuff because of what happened with George Floyd. And obviously the police intervened and, everybody knows what happened there. But with this Capitol Hill scenario, yes, 1 person died. That's terrible. Three people, had their lives lost because of medical emergencies. But a lot of people are saying that if it was a Black Lives Matter protest, things would have got worse. I'm not saying I would disagree, but I'm thinking in terms of what's happening at Capitol Hill. Obviously, the people in charge of security, they wouldn't want to, harm anybody unless they absolutely had to. Their main job would be to, stop the siege. What fascinates me is, or I should say number one, what fascinates me is this is happening a few weeks before Biden takes over as the president of the United States of America. And people automatically think that with Biden in charge, there'll be no more protests. With Biden in charge, everything to do with the illness that has, turned the world upside down is just going to go away overnight. And everybody thinks that there's going to be racial equality and there's going to be no oppression and everybody's going to be fine. It fascinates me because I know that's wrong. And most people that have been about for a while on this earth know that that's wrong. Trump, in my opinion, is not totally to blame for everything that's happened in the past few years. His administration is more of, and everything that's happened since he became president they're more of consequences to a greater problem. There have been millions of people who feel unheard. The working class, white people, black people, poor people, different racial groups, different cultures, and people that aren't making that much money. For different reasons, they feel unheard by the establishment. So you got black people who talk about, fighting racism and having people not get killed by police wrongfully. And the only way they feel like they can be heard is through protests and social media campaigns. And with working class white people, they've been tricked into thinking that the same establishment that have gone out of their way to not listen to them and to like make them work hard so that, certain people could become richer, the same establishment that have allowed this to happen, they've now tricked these working class white people into thinking, look, vote for me and I'll solve everything. You've got the Democrats telling white people, especially working class white people and black people and other ethnicities, that, oh, wait, if you want more pay, if you want a higher minimum wage, vote for us. If you want better healthcare, vote for us. If you want there to be no more riots and no more killings in the streets, vote for us. But if you look at certain Democrat-run towns and cities and areas such as Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Detroit as well, these places obviously have killings on the streets. There have been gangs, riots, all this stuff, gun crime, all this stuff happening, and they've been rampant, especially in places like Chicago. You've got black people who've been suffering and white people as well. And then you've got Republicans saying, look, listen, forget these liberals, forget these lefties, you should vote for us. And we've had Trump for 4 years. Now, some Republicans have hated the fact that Trump has been in charge, and they believe that he stains the reputation of the GOP, the Grand Old Party, the Republican Party. But other politicians within the GOP have obviously supported Trump. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to get away with everything that he's gotten away with over the last 4 years. And honestly, that just shows that the Republicans are not to be completely trusted either. Now, that's number one. Number two, what fascinates me is that with this new presidency, people seem to think that there's going to be racial equality and that they're going to care more about people who have less money. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. Especially in places like America. Let's just talk about America for another hot second. The racial disparity and the racial inequality is also related to class issues. A lot of the people that are ethnic minorities happen to not, well, I'm just going to say they happen to be poor, but not everybody. So it's like black people are more likely to be poor in America than white people. White people are more likely to own their home than black people. That's not just a race. That's not entirely a race thing. That's a class thing. Why? Well, it's not just because of what happened with slavery. It's also because of the fact that, at the time, whites had more opportunity and blacks had less. But now, everything's supposed to be equal opportunity, and it is supposed to be, theoretically, on paper. But that means black people have to play catch up. But it's not just that. It's also because of culture. There's a certain culture within African Americans where they think, okay, great, the best way for black people to get rich is to be in the entertainment industry. And what's entertainment? Anything that people pay money for to watch people and they get entertained. That includes sports, that includes music, that includes film. It includes film too. So there are families that imply to their black kids, hey, if you want to be successful, you gotta be a rapper or be a musician, be a sports player, be a film star, be a singer. But 99.9% of people that want to go into any of those fields, they don't make it. So in my opinion, it's only now, especially with social media and YouTube, it's only now there are way more black people, on the internet preaching about financial literacy and financial education, trading and investing in stocks and real estate and, producing and buying and selling limited liability corporations, businesses, enterprises, trying to become an entrepreneur. That's more common. And luckily, some of the most popular rappers in the game, they're smart enough to also emphasize the importance of starting businesses. So you've actually got people who started out as rappers like Jay-Z or P. Diddy. Well, some of those people didn't just start out as rappers. They did other things before, but I'm not going to go into that. People like Jay-Z, Diddy, 50 Cent, they've all created different enterprises. They've bought things, sold things, built businesses from scratch. And now, Jay-Z's a billionaire, Kanye's a billionaire, and the other people I mentioned, they've held hundreds of millions of dollars in their hands before. Not in their hands, but in terms of net worth. So it's not just about entertaining people, it's also about financial literacy. Number three, what people need to realize is that just because in America Biden is going to be president, it doesn't mean that America is going to be seen as the number one superpower of the world like before. It's not, especially with emerging powers such as, China and Russia, and also, dark horses such as Iran. Iran's trying to get their nuclear energy game up. They're trying to improve things, and they're trying to expand their economy. And the US doesn't seem to like that with all those sanctions. You've also got Russia, you've also got China. They've expanded China has expanded their economy, and Russia is becoming a bigger and bigger threat to US security in different ways with the hacking and everything. But then again, you have to take what I say with a pinch of salt, because the people telling you this are Western media. So perhaps you have to take a pinch of salt with what you have to say. But if I look back over the last few days, with everything that's going on with Capitol Hill, all these protests, and the reactions to it, it took how many years? It took 4 years of Trump being the president and saying stupid things for Mark Zuckerberg to go, do you know what? Maybe he shouldn't be on Facebook and Instagram. Now, I don't believe in the infringement of free speech of anybody, but I understand why it had to happen. But it took Mark Zuckerberg 4 years. It took Facebook 4 years. Christopher Wiley, that bloke from Cambridge Analytica, when he whistled when he was whistleblowing about what was happening with people's private information being given to other agencies so that they can make people vote a certain way. A few years back, he was removed from the platform. But after everything that's happened with Trump, it took all those years, all those incidents, all those PR disasters, and now Mark Zuckerberg's like, okay, fine, people have died at Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill has been taken under siege. Maybe, Trump's rhetoric is damaging and as a negative influence on young people. Maybe. Then again, on the other hand, you have to think about the fact that with everybody that's been removed from Facebook in the last few years, including the likes of Alex Jones, Mark Zuckerberg seems to be removing people that have alternative views that go against the status quo. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, think about it for a second. What happens when you have opinions that go against the status quo? Are they going to block you too? Are they going to remove you from the platform too? Just because you say something or think something that somebody might not like? Something that people might be offended by? Because if we're just going on things that may be true or not true, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of profiles of people all over social media that say nothing but BS. They're still going to be up there, as long as it's related to the status quo. But if it's things that people don't like to hear, then what? They're going to be blocked. They're going to have their infringements. They're going to have their human rights infringed, their right to speak freely. Perhaps that's not always the best solution. But anyway, that's me. It's my little thought on that. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.